She saved a stranger's life one desperate night, asked no questions, let him disappear. Weeks later, freezing and alone at a deserted train station, she saw him again. The man she'd helped was one of the city's most dangerous mafia boss, and he'd come to return the favor. The wind cut through Lena's coat like a knife through paper. She wrapped her arms tighter around herself, but it did nothing. The cold had already seeped into her bones, turning her fingers numb and her lips blue. The station clock read 11:47 p.m. She'd been sitting on this bench for 2 hours now, watching her breath fog in the frigid air. Train service suspended until further notice, due to severe weather conditions. The announcement had come through the crackling speakers an hour ago. Most people had called someone, found a ride, disappeared into the night. But Lena's phone was dead, had died right after her 12-hour shift to the clinic. And there was no one to call anyway. She was alone. Snow swirled across the empty platform, piling against the metal benches and abandoned coffee cups. The station lights flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the ice. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the rumble of an engine. Lena looked up. 3 black SUVs rolled slowly past the station entrance. Expensive. The kind of cars that didn't belong in this part of the city at midnight. They stopped. Her heart quickened. Something felt wrong. The back door of the middle vehicle opened, and a man stepped out. Even from a distance, Lena could see he was different.
Tall.
Dark coat. The way he moved, controlled, deliberate, reminded her of a predator. His men flanked him immediately, 4 of them, hands inside their jackets. They were leaving, walking away. Then the man stopped. He turned his head toward the platform, toward her. For a moment that stretched too long, he simply stared. Lena couldn't see his face clearly, but she felt his gaze like a physical weight. She wanted to look away, to pretend she didn't exist, but something held her frozen. He spoke to one of his men, pointed at her.
No. No, no, no.
Lena stood up too quickly, her legs weak from the cold. She needed to leave.
Now.
But where would she go? The station was surrounded by empty streets and closed shops. There was nowhere to run. The man was walking toward her. His footsteps crunched against the snow, steady and unhurried. As he came closer, the station lights finally caught his face. Dark eyes, sharp jaw, a face that looked carved from stone, beautiful in a dangerous way. There was blood on his knuckles. Lena's breath caught. "You're alone," he said. Not a question. A statement. His voice was deep, accented, Italian maybe, and carried an authority that made her instinctively step back. "The trains are delayed," she managed, hating how small her voice sounded. "I'm waiting. In this cold." He glanced at the empty platform, then back at her. "There's no train coming tonight. I'll manage." "You're shaking." "Ai fine." He studied her for a long moment, those dark eyes reading something she couldn't hide. Then, without warning, he shrugged off his coat and held it toward her. Lena stared at it. The coat probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I don't need." "Take it." I said I'm fine. And I said take it. There was steel beneath the calm tone. This was a man used to being obeyed. Lena's pride warred with her practicality. She was freezing. Literally freezing. And this stranger, dangerous as he clearly was offering help. Slowly, she reached for the coat. The moment her fingers touched the fabric, recognition hit her like lightning.
No.
It can't be. Her eyes snapped to his face, really looking this time. The strong nose. The scar along his left temple, barely visible. She knew that scar. She'd stitched it herself 3 months ago in the clinic's back room, her hand shaking as she worked on a man who'd stumbled in with a gunshot wound and no questions asked. He'd given a fake name, paid in cash, disappeared before sunrise. And now he was standing in front of her. "You," she whispered. Something flickered in his expression.
Surprise? No recognition.
He remembered her too. Small world. he said quietly. Then his expression hardened. Put on the coat. You're coming with me.
What? No, y.
That wasn't a request, he gestured to his men, who immediately moved closer. You can walk, or they'll carry you. Your choice. Panic surged through Lena's chest. You can't just kidnap me. I'm not kidnapping you. I'm getting you out of the cold. He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. And away from what's about to happen here. What are you talking about? He didn't answer. Instead, he looked past her, toward the far end of the platform where a dark shape lay crumpled against the wall. Lena followed his gaze and felt her stomach drop. Is that? Don't look, he commanded, but it was too late. She'd seen enough. The unnatural angle of the limbs. The dark pool spreading beneath. We need to leave.
Now.
Did you? Questions later. Move. His hand closed around her arm. Not rough, but firm enough that she couldn't pull away. He guided her toward the SUV, his men forming a protective circle around them. Lena's mind raced. This was insane. She should scream, fight, run.
But where?
To the corpse on the platform? Into the empty streets. And why did part of her, the part that remembered his face pale and bleeding on her clinic table, believe he wasn't going to hurt her? The SUV door opened. Warm air rushed out.
Get in, he said.
Lena looked at him one last time. Who are you? His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile.
Alessandro Vitae.
And you, nurse, just saved my life once. Consider this me returning the favor. Then he placed a hand on her head, surprisingly gentle, and guided her into the car.
The door closed.
The engine roared. And as the station disappeared behind them into the swirling snow, Lena realized she'd just crossed a line she could never uncross. Lena woke to silk sheets and sunlight. For a confused moment, she thought she was dreaming. Her apartment didn't have windows this large. Her mattress didn't feel like a cloud. And she definitely didn't own curtains that probably cost more than her car. Then last night crashed back.
Alessandro Vitae.
She sat up too quickly, her head spinning. The room was enormous. Cream walls, antique furniture, a chandelier that sparkled overhead. Through the window, she could see snow-covered gardens stretching toward a distant gate. This wasn't a house. It wasn't a estate. Where the hell was she? Lena threw off the covers and realized someone had changed her clothes. She was wearing silk pajamas now, soft and expensive. Her nursing scrubs were gone. Panic clawed at her throat. The door opened. A woman in her 50s entered, carrying a tray. You're awake. Good. Mr. Vitale wants you to join him for breakfast. Where are my clothes? Being cleaned. The woman set down the tray, coffee, pastries, fresh fruit. There's a dress in the closet. It should fit. I don't want a dress. I want my phone. I want to leave. The woman's expression softened slightly. Your phone is charging downstairs. As for leaving, she paused. That's something to discuss with Mr. Vitale. Is he keeping me prisoner?
No, miss.
He's keeping you alive. The woman turned toward the door. Breakfast is at 9. Don't keep him waiting. Lena was alone again. She moved to the window, testing it.
Locked.
The door? Unlocked, but she could hear footsteps in the hallway.
Guards.
Of course there were guards. Think, Lena.
Think.
She couldn't stay here. Whatever Alessandro was, whoever he was, she'd stumbled into something dangerous. That body at the station. His bloodied knuckles. The way his men moved like soldiers. But he'd also saved her from freezing. Given her his coat. His eyes, when he'd looked at her, hadn't been cruel. Confused and furious, Lena dressed in the simple navy dress from the closet. It fit perfectly, which somehow made everything worse. How long had he been planning this? She found the dining room by following the smell of coffee. Alessandro sat at the head of a long mahogany table, reading a newspaper. He'd changed too, dark suit, white shirt, no tie. He looked like a CEO, not a whatever he actually was. When she entered, he glanced up, and something in his expression shifted. You're awake.
Good.
Sit. I'd rather stand. Sit, Lena. The use of her name, casual, familiar, made her freeze. How do you know my name? He gestured to the chair beside him. Your hospital ID was in your coat pocket.
Seat.
Please. The please surprised her enough that she obeyed. Alessandro poured her coffee without asking how she took it. Black, 2 sugars, and she realized with a chill that he'd watched her make coffee at the clinic that night. He'd been conscious enough to remember. Why am I here? She demanded. Because you were freezing at a train station, and I don't let women freeze. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. He studied her over his cup. You work at St. Catherine's Clinic. Night shifts mostly. You live alone in a studio apartment on Maple Street. Your car is 10 years old and barely runs. Lena's blood ran cold. You investigated me. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. You saved my life. His voice was quiet but absolute. That makes you mine to protect. Before Lena could respond, a door slammed open. A man stormed in, older, silver-haired, furious. He spoke rapid Italian, gesturing at Lena, his voice rising. Alessandro's expression didn't change, but something dangerous entered his eyes. He answered in Italian, calm and deadly. The argument escalated. The silver-haired man pointed at Lena, said something sharp. Alessandro stood slowly, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Careful, Marco, he said in English, his eyes never leaving the other man. You're forgetting who you're speaking to. Marco's jaw clenched, but he stepped back. She's a liability. She was at the station. The police. I'll handle the police. You should handle her. Marco's meaning was clear. Lena's heart hammered. She stood, ready to run, but Alessandro's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not hard.
Just.
Holding. No one touches her, Alessandro said, his voice like ice. Anyone who tries answers to me personally. Are we clear? The room fell silent. Marco stared at Alessandro, disbelief on his face. Then understanding dawned, followed by something close to horror.
Boss.
You can't be serious. For a girl you just met. I didn't just meet her. Alessandro's grip on Lena's wrist loosened, became almost gentle. She's the one who saved me after the Marchetti hit. The nurse I've been looking for. The air left the room. Marco went pale. That was her? Yes. Then she knows. She knows nothing. Yet Alessandro finally looked at Lena, and she saw something in his eyes she couldn't name. But she's about to learn everything. Lena returned to work 3 days later with a new phone, a driver she didn't ask for, and questions she couldn't answer. Alessandro had let her go. Sort of. You're free to leave, he'd said that morning, handing her the phone. But my men will keep watch. For your safety. I don't need a babysitter. You need to stay alive. He'd stepped closer, his voice dropping. There are people who think you saw something at that station. People who don't leave witnesses. I didn't see anything. Doesn't matter what you saw. Matters what they think you saw. Now, as Lena walked through St. Catherine's Clinic entrance, she felt eyes on her back. Alessandro's men, probably. Watching from cars, with tinted windows. Her shift started normally, checking vitals, changing bandages, the usual chaos of a city clinic. She almost convinced herself the past few days had been a fever dream. Then, the detectives arrived. Lena Moretti? The badge flashed too quickly to read. Detective Chun. This is Detective Rodriguez. We need to ask you some questions. Lena's stomach dropped. About what? Can we speak somewhere private? They ended up in the break room. Detective Chun was young, sharp-eyed. Rodriguez was older, tired. They sat across from her like this was routine, but Lena could feel the weight behind their casual postures. Chun slid a photo across the table. Do you recognize this location? It was the train station. Her station. The timestamp read 11:52 p.m., the night Alessandro found her. I was there, Lena said carefully, waiting for a train that never came. How long were you there? 2 hours, maybe? The trains were canceled because of the storm. Did you see anyone else? Rodriguez leaned forward. Any unusual activity?
Lena's mouth went dry. The body.
The dark shape against the wall. Alessandro's blood-stained knuckles. It was pretty empty, she said. Just me and a few other people waiting. Chin pulled out another photo. This one made Lena's heart stop. It was blurry, taken from a security camera, but clear enough. 3 black SUVs. And there, on the platform, a figure in a dark coat, standing over someone sitting on a bench. That's you, isn't it? Chun tapped the sitting figure. And this man, do you know who he is?
No.
You sure? Because shortly after this was taken, you got into one of these vehicles and left with him. He offered me a ride. Lena kept her voice steady. I was freezing. He was a good Samaritan. A good Samaritan, Rodriguez smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Did this good Samaritan give you his name?
No.
Where did he take you? He dropped me at a hotel. Which hotel? Lena hesitated a fraction too long. I don't remember. I was exhausted. The detectives exchanged glances. Chin leaned back, studying her. Ms. Moretti, a man was murdered at that station that night. Found in the maintenance area, execution style. Single bullet to the head. The room tilted. We believe, Chin continued, that you may have witnessed something. Or someone. And we think the man who took you might be connected. I didn't see anything, Lena repeated, but her voice shook now. Then why did you leave with a stranger at midnight? Because I was cold and stupid and desperate. The words burst out. I made a bad decision. That's all. Rodriguez pulled out another photo. This time it was a face. Dead eyes staring at nothing, a hole in the forehead. Vincent Caruso, Rodriguez said. Low-level enforcer for the Marchetti family. They've been at war with the Vitali organization for months now. You know anything about that? Lena's blood turned to ice.
Vitali.
No, she whispered. Because if you do know something, Chin said softly, and you're protecting someone, that makes you an accessory. That's prison time, Ms. Moretti. I'm not protecting anyone. Then help us identify the man in this photo. Chun tapped the blurry image. If he's innocent, he has nothing to hide. But if you're covering for Alessandro Vitali... The door burst open. A woman in an expensive suit strode in, her expression sharp enough to cut glass. This interview is over. My client won't be answering any more questions without legal counsel present. Your client? Rodriguez frowned. We didn't. Lena Moretti is now represented by Hartman and Associates. Any further contact goes through me. She placed a business card on the table. Detectives. Chun and Rodriguez stood slowly, frustration clear on their faces. We'll be in touch, Ms. Moretti, Chun said. Don't leave town. They left. Lena stared at the lawyer. I didn't call you. I know. The woman's expression softened slightly. Mr. Vitali did. He thought you might need assistance. He sent you? How did he even know? Lena stopped. He's watching the clinic. He's watching everywhere. Lena's hands shook. Those detectives think I'm involved in a murder. You're not. And we'll make sure they understand that. The lawyer packed her briefcase. But Ms. Moretti, you need to understand something. The Marchetti family heard the same thing the police did, that there was a witness at that station. And unlike the police, they don't need proof to act. What does that mean? The lawyer met her eyes. It means you're in more danger than you realize. And right now, the safest place for you is wherever Alessandro Vitali says it is. Lena's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. They're coming for you tonight. My men are outside. Don't fight them this time. She looked up at the lawyer, fear finally breaking through. How bad is this? Bad enough that you need to leave.
Now.
Lena made it 4 days before everything fell apart. 4 days of pretending the lawyer's visit hadn't happened. 4 days of ignoring Alessandro's text. 4 days of convincing herself she could go back to normal if she just tried hard enough. She was wrong. The late shift ended at 11 p.m. Lena pulled her coat tight and stepped into the cold November air, her breath fogging. The street was quiet, too quiet. The usual traffic sounds felt muffled, distant. Alessandro's men weren't outside the clinic. She'd checked. Maybe he finally gave up, she thought. Maybe I'm free. She walked quickly, keys already in her hand. Her apartment was 6 blocks away. She'd walked this route 100 times. But tonight, every shadow felt wrong. Every footstep behind her too deliberate. Lena glanced back. Nothing. She turned the corner onto Maple Street. A van sat idling halfway down the block, exhaust puffing white in the cold. Wrong color. Wrong plates. Not Alessandro's. Her instinct screamed. Lena spun around, ready to run back toward the main street, and walked straight into a wall of muscle. A man grabbed her arm, his grip iron. Another appeared from the shadows, moving to block her escape. "Don't scream," the first one said. "Make this easy. Let go of me." Lena twisted, driving her elbow into his ribs like she'd learned in that self-defense class years ago. He grunted, but didn't release her. The second man pulled out a cloth. Chloroform, probably. Lena's medical training kicked in. She had maybe 3 seconds before. Tires squealed. A black SUV exploded around the corner, headlights blinding. It didn't slow down. The men holding Lena dove aside as the vehicle mounted the sidewalk, stopping inches from where they'd been standing. Doors flew open. Alessandro's men poured out, 4 of them, moving with military precision. The fight was brutal and efficient. One of Lena's attackers went down with a knee to the face. The other reached for a gun but never cleared his holster before he was disarmed and slammed against the van. Alessandro emerged from the SUV like a storm given form. He didn't run. He walked. And somehow that was more terrifying. He moved past his men, past the groaning attackers, straight to Lena. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, unable to speak. His hands moved over her arms, her shoulders, checking for injuries with surprising gentleness. Then his eyes found the red marks on her wrist where the man had grabbed her, and something dark and terrible crossed his face. He turned to the man his guards were holding. "Who sent you?" The man spat blood. "Go to hell, Vitali." Alessandro's expression didn't change, but one of his men stepped forward and broke the man's finger with a casual twist. The scream echoed down the empty street.
"Who sent
you?" "Marchetti," the man gasped. "Marchetti wants her dead. She saw Carlo at the station. She can identify." She didn't see anything. "Doesn't matter. Boss says no witnesses." The man's eyes darted to Lena, wild with fear and pain. "You're dead already, girl. We're just the first. They'll keep coming." Alessandro pulled a gun from his jacket and pressed it against the man's temple. "Then you can tell them in hell that they failed."
"No."
Lena grabbed Alessandro's arm. "Don't. You can't just execute him. He was going to kill you." "I don't care." "You can't," her voice broke. "Please." Alessandro stared at her, something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then, slowly, he lowered the gun. "Take them," he told his men. "Find out everything Marchetti knows. Then make sure they're never found." The men dragged the attackers into the van and drove off, leaving only Alessandro's SUV idling at the curb. Lena's legs gave out. Alessandro caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her effortlessly. "I've got you." "They were going to kill me," she whispered against his chest. "They were really going to." "I know," his arms tightened around her. "That's why you can't go home. You can't go anywhere alone. Not anymore. I can't just disappear. I have a job, a life. You'll have a grave if you keep pretending this isn't real." He carried her to the SUV, setting her gently in the back seat. Then he crouched beside her, his face level with hers. "Lena, listen to me. The Marchetti family thinks you're a witness to their murder. They've put out a contract. Do you understand what that means?" "A bounty," she said numbly. "On my head. $50,000 to whoever brings them proof you're dead." His hand cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. "I can protect you, but only if you stop fighting me. Only if you trust that I'm the only thing standing between you and a bullet." Tears burned her eyes. I didn't ask for this. I know. His thumb brushed her cheek, catching a tear. But you're in this now, whether you like it or not. The phrase echoed from the station, from that first night. Full circle. Where are you taking me? Somewhere Marchetti can't reach you. Somewhere safe. Alessandro closed the door and walked around to the driver's seat. No guards this time. Just him. As they pulled away from her apartment, from her life, Lena watched the familiar streets disappear. She was being dragged into a war she didn't understand, by a man she'd saved once and who now insisted on saving her. And the worst part, she was starting to believe he was the only one who could. The safe house was a penthouse in the financial district, all glass and steel, 30 floors above the city. Lena stood at the window, watching cars crawl through streets below like ants. From up here, everything looked small, manageable, safe. It was an illusion. You should eat something, Alessandro said behind her. She didn't turn around. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten in 8 hours. How would you know? Because I've been watching you pace for 8 hours. Lena finally looked at him. He'd shed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves. Even exhausted, he looked dangerous, like a blade wrapped in expensive fabric. Is that what you do? Watch people? When they matter, yes. I don't matter to you. I'm just a problem you're trying to solve. Something flickered across his face. You think that's what this is, isn't it? Lena crossed her arms. Some nurse patched you up once. Now you feel obligated. Honor among thieves or whatever. I'm not a thief. Then what are you? She took a step toward him, anger finally burning through the fear. You show up at a train station with blood on your hands. Your friends talk about hits and families like it's a business. Men are trying to kill me because of something I didn't even see. So tell me, Alessandro, what exactly are you? The silence stretched. Then Alessandro moved to the bar and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. He held one out to her. Sit down. I'll tell you everything. I don't want.
Sit
down. The command in his voice made her obey before she thought better of it. She took the glass but didn't drink. Alessandro sat across from her, the city lights casting shadows across his face. My family has controlled the city's ports for 3 generations. Shipping, logistics, import-export. Legitimate businesses built on less legitimate foundations. Your mafia, that's a crude term. But yes, he took a drink. My father died when I was 22. Heart attack. I inherited everything. The business, the debts, the enemies. The Marchetti family, among others. His jaw tightened. Antonio Marchetti and my father had an agreement. Territories, percentages, peace. But Antonio got greedy. Started moving drugs through our ports without permission. When I confronted him, he declared war. Lena processed this. That night at the clinic. 3 months ago. You said it was a car accident. It was an ambush. Marchetti's men hit my convoy on the interstate. Killed my driver, 2 of my guards. Alessandro's voice went cold. I took a bullet in the shoulder. Another grazed my ribs. Managed to drive myself to your clinic because it was the closest place I could think of that wouldn't ask questions. And I stitched you up without knowing who you were. You saved my life. He leaned forward. You didn't call the police. Didn't report a gunshot wound. You just helped. Asked for a fake name, took my cash, and told me to change my bandages twice a day. That's my job. No, Alessandro's eyes held hers. Your job is to report gunshot wounds. You broke the law for a stranger. Why? Lena looked away. You said you had a daughter. That she needed you. The words hung between them. I lied, Alessandro said quietly. I don't have children. I just needed you to help me. You manipulated me. I was bleeding out on your exam table. I would have said anything. He stood, moving to the window. But what you did, helping me anyway, that meant something. So when I saw you at that station, freezing and alone, I couldn't just leave you there. Because you owed me. Because I wanted to. He turned back to her. And then I realized you'd been at that station. Marchetti's men had just dumped Carlo's body there, punishment for skimming money. Bad luck put you in the wrong place at the worst time. I didn't see the body until you pointed it out. Doesn't matter. Security cameras caught you on the platform. Marchetti's people got to the footage before we could erase it all. Alessandro's expression darkened. They think you saw Carlo. Think you can identify who dumped him. They can't risk you talking to the police. Lena felt sick. So, I'm a loose end. Your leverage. Against me, he moved closer. When Marco found out you were the nurse who saved me, everything changed. Marchetti will use you to hurt me, to draw me out. Then let me go. Give me money, a new identity. I'll disappear. You think I haven't thought of that? Alessandro's voice rose for the first time. You think I want you trapped here? But Marchetti has contacts everywhere. Police, airports, bus stations. You'd be dead before you cross state lines. So, what? I'm just supposed to hide here forever? Until I end this. End it how? Alessandro's smile was cold. By finishing what Marchetti started. Lena stood, the whiskey forgotten. You're going to kill him. I'm going to win a war. He closed the distance between them. And you're going to stay alive long enough to see it. That's the only option, Lena. The only way this ends. She wanted to argue, to scream, to wake up from this nightmare. Instead, she asked the question that had haunted her for days. Why do you care? Really? You barely know me. Alessandro reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. You looked at me like I was worth saving, not like a boss or a weapon.
Just
a man, his voice dropped to barely a whisper. No one's looked at me like that in a very long time. The attack came at 3 a.m. Lena woke to the sound of shattering glass. Alessandro was already moving, gun in hand, pressing her down behind the bed. Stay low, he commanded. Don't move. Gunfire erupted. The windows exploded inward in a shower of glass and bullets. Alessandro returned fire, his shots precise and controlled. Outside the bedroom, Lena heard shouting, his men scrambling to defensive positions. How did they find us? She gasped. Alessandro's face went dark. Someone told them. More gunfire. The door burst open, and one of Alessandro's guards stumbled in, blood spreading across his chest. He collapsed.
Marco.
Alessandro moved to him, checking the wound. Fatal. The man's eyes were already glazing. Boss, Marco choked out. He coughed blood. Betrayal. Inside. They knew. Everything. Then he was gone. Alessandro closed the dead man's eyes, his expression carved from stone. We need to move.
Now.
He pulled Lena to her feet, wrapping his jacket around her. They moved through the penthouse like ghosts, Alessandro's gun leading the way. Bodies littered the floor, some his men, some Marchetti's. The battle had been quick and brutal. In the stairwell, they ran into two of Alessandro's remaining guards. The west exit's compromised, one reported. They're coming up both stairwells. How many? At least 15. Maybe more. Alessandro calculated quickly. Take the service elevator. Get to the parking garage. I'll hold them here. Boss, you can't. That's an order. He shoved Lena toward them.
Keep her alive.
That's all that matters.
No.
Lena grabbed his arm. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. Like hell I don't. She heard footsteps thundering up the stairs below. Lots of them. You'll die if you stay here alone. Then I die protecting you. And I live knowing I let it happen? Her voice broke.
No.
We leave together or not at all. Alessandro stared at her, something raw and vulnerable flashing in his eyes. Then he cursed in Italian and made a decision. The roof. There's a helicopter pad. They ran. Up 3 flights of stairs, Lena's lungs burning. Behind them, the attackers were gaining ground. A bullet ricocheted off the metal railing, inches from Alessandro's head. They burst onto the roof. Wind whipped at them, cold and fierce.
No helicopter.
Just empty concrete and city lights spreading endlessly below. Where's the backup? Alessandro demanded into his phone. The answer made him go still. When?
A pause.
And you're sure? His grip on the phone tightened. I understand. He hung up. What? Lena asked. My pilot's dead. Killed 2 hours ago. Alessandro's voice was ice. Someone made sure we'd have no way out. The stairwell door exploded open. Marchetti's men poured onto the roof. 8 of them, guns raised. Alessandro pushed Lena behind him, his own weapon aimed at the closest attacker. Stay back. Drop it, Vitali. One of them called. You're done. Marchetti wants the girl alive, but he'll settle for proof you're dead. You'll have to go through me. That's the plan. The standoff stretched. 8 guns against 1.
Impossible.
Then Lena saw it, a maintenance ladder along the roof's edge, leading down to a balcony 2 floors below. Crazy. Suicidal, maybe, but possible. She grabbed Alessandro's arm and whispered, the ladder. East side. Too exposed. Better than dying here. He glanced at her, then at the ladder, calculating. When I move, you run. Don't look back. Together, she insisted. Alessandro's lips curved despite everything. Stubborn woman. You're just figuring that out. He fired 3 shots in rapid succession, not at the men but at the rooftop lights, plunging everything into darkness. Then he grabbed Lena's hand and ran. Bullets chased them. Lena felt one pass, so close to her head she heard it whistle. Alessandro returned fire as they ran, his aim somehow perfect even in the dark. They reached the ladder. Alessandro practically threw her onto it. Climb. Lena climbed faster than she'd ever moved in her life. The metal rungs were slick with ice. Below, the balcony looked impossibly far. Above, she heard Alessandro following, his breathing harsh. A bullet sparked off the ladder near her hand. She didn't stop. Her feet hit the balcony. Alessandro landed beside her a second later, immediately shooting out the glass door. They crashed into an empty apartment, some wealthy resident who was thankfully away. Through there, Alessandro pointed to the front door. We need to reach the... He stumbled. Lena caught him and felt warmth.
Blood.
Lots of it. You're hit. Just my side. I'm fine, but his face had gone pale. You're not fine. Her medical training took over. She pressed her hand against the wound. The bullet had gone through, but he was losing blood fast. We need to stop the bleeding. No time. There. Shut up and let me work. She ripped off her jacket, wadding it against the wound. Press here. Hard. Alessandro obeyed, his dark eyes on her face. Lena. Don't you dare die on me, Alessandro Vitali. Not after dragging me into this mess. Her hands worked quickly, efficiently, just like that night in her clinic. You don't get to play hero and then bleed out. Understand? Despite the pain, despite everything, he smiled. Yes, ma'am. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. They were out of time. They made it to the cabin on fumes and adrenaline. Alessandro's emergency contact, a man named Enzo who asked no questions, met them at a gas station and drove them 3 hours north into the mountains. By the time they arrived, Alessandro had lost consciousness twice. Lena worked on him by lantern light, her hands steady despite her terror. The wound was clean through and through, missing vital organs by inches. She stitched him up with supplies from the cabin's surprisingly well-stocked medical kit. You plan for this? She asked Enzo. Boss plans for everything. He watched her work with approval. You're good at this. I've had practice. She tied off the last suture. He needs antibiotics. Real ones, not whatever expired pills are in this kit. I'll make a call. By dawn, Alessandro was sleeping fitfully on the cabin's single bed, his breathing steady. Lena sat beside him, exhaustion pulling at her bones, but unable to rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the rooftop, the guns,
the blood.
She'd almost lost him. The realization hit harder than it should have. This man, This dangerous, complicated, infuriating man had somehow become important to her. More than just the stranger she'd saved. More than her captor-turned-protector. When had that happened? "You're staring," Alessandro murmured, his eyes still closed.
Lena jerked back.
"You should be asleep." Hard to sleep when someone's burning holes in you with their eyes, he opened them slowly, focusing on her. "How bad?" "You'll live. But you need rest." "We don't have time for rest." "Make time." Her voice was sharper than intended. "You almost died tonight, Alessandro. Again. Because of me. Not because of you. Because someone in my organization sold us out." He tried to sit up, winced, and let her push him back down. "Marco was right. There's a traitor."
"Who?"
"I have suspicions." His jaw tightened. "When we get back. If we get back. Marchetti knows we escaped. He'll be looking everywhere." "Let him look." Alessandro caught her hand. "Lena, I need to tell you something. You need to rest.
"After."
Please." Something in his voice made her stay. She settled back into the chair, his hand still holding hers. Alessandro was quiet for a long moment, staring at the cabin's wooden ceiling. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than she'd ever heard it. "I was 10 when I understood what my father really did. Found him in his study, washing blood off his hands. Not his blood." He paused. "Asked him if he was a bad man. He said, 'I'm a man who protects his family. Sometimes that requires bad things.'" Lena stayed silent, listening. "I told myself I'd be different. That when I took over, I'd do it clean. Legal." Alessandro laughed bitterly. "Lasted exactly 3 months. Then Marchetti tested me, pushed boundaries, waited to see if I'd break. I had a choice, show weakness and watch everything my father built crumble, or become exactly what I swore I wouldn't. What did you choose?" "I broke Marchetti's lieutenant's legs, personally. Sent them back as a message." His eyes met hers. "I became my father. Worse, maybe. I've killed people, Lena. Ordered deaths. Done things that would make you run if you knew the details. Then why are you telling me?" "Because you deserve to know who you're sitting with. What you're protecting." His grip on her hand tightened. "That night in your clinic when you looked at me like I was just a person who needed help. I hadn't felt human in years. Everyone sees the boss, the threat, the weapon. But I just saw a bleeding man." Exactly. His thumb traced circles on her palm. "And tonight, on that roof, when you refused to leave me. No one's ever done that. My own men would have followed orders. But you," his voice caught. "You chose to stay." Lena's throat tightened. "I couldn't leave you." "Why not?" The question hung between them. The answer terrified her, but it was also the truest thing she'd ever felt. "Because somewhere between that train station and tonight, you stopped being the monster I should fear." She leaned closer. "You became someone I can't afford to lose." Alessandro's eyes darkened. "Lena, I know what you are, what you've done, and I should run. I should be horrified." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But when I thought you might die tonight, all I felt was terror. Not of you. For you." He pulled her down gently until her forehead rested against his. "This is a mistake. You and me. Everything about this is wrong. I know. You'll be in danger. Always. Just by being near me. I'm already in danger. It'll get worse. I don't care." Alessandro cupped her face, his touch achingly gentle for someone with blood on his hands. "You should care. You should hate me. Too late for that." He kissed her then, slow and careful, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. Lena kissed him back, tasting desperation and promise and the terrifying certainty that she'd just crossed a line she could never uncross. When they pulled apart, Alessandro's expression was equal parts wonder and anguish. "I can't protect you and love you both," he whispered. "One will destroy the other." Lena smiled sadly. "Then I guess we'll have to be very careful." Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent, covering the world in white. Just like the night they met. The traitor was Enzo. Alessandro figured it out on the third day at the cabin. Small things that didn't add up, the too convenient ambush timing, the dead pilot, how Enzo always seemed to know where they'd be. "He was my father's friend," Alessandro said, staring at his phone. 30 years of loyalty. And he sold me out for what?
Money?
Power? Or fear, Lena suggested. Marchetti's been winning this war. Maybe Enzo thought he was picking the safer side. Then he chose wrong. Alessandro made a single call. Within hours, his remaining loyal men had Enzo. The interrogation lasted 10 minutes. Enzo confessed everything. Marchetti had threatened his grandchildren, promised him retirement money, guaranteed safety. "He gave up our location," Alessandro told Lena. "Marchetti's coming. Tonight. With everyone he has. Then we run." "No," Alessandro's voice was steel. "Running is done. I end this now, or we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders." "You can't fight his entire organization." "I won't have to," he showed her his phone. "I've made calls. The other families are tired of Marchetti's chaos. Bad for business. They've agreed to stay neutral, which means Marchetti's on his own. It's just his men against mine. That's still suicide." "It's strategy," Alessandro pulled her close. "I'm not going to die, Lena. Not when I finally have something worth living for." The plan was insane. Alessandro leaked their location to Marchetti through Enzo, an abandoned warehouse on the waterfront, neutral ground. But Alessandro's men had been fortifying it for hours, turning it into a trap. "You should stay at the safe house," Alessandro told Lena as they drove toward the warehouse. "My best men will guard you. We've had this argument. I'm coming." "Lena, I'm a nurse. If your men get hurt, they'll need medical attention. I can help." She met his eyes. "And if something happens to you, I need to be there." Alessandro looked like he wanted to argue but knew better. "You stay in the car."
Locked.
"No matter what happens."
Fiend.
It was a lie, and they both knew it. The warehouse loomed against the night sky, windows dark. Alessandro's men were hidden, on rooftops, behind crates, in shadows. 20 of his best against Marchetti's 40. Marchetti arrived at midnight, his convoy rolling up with theatrical arrogance. The old man stepped out, flanked by guards, his smile predatory. "Alessandro," he called. Come out, come out. Let's end this like men." Alessandro emerged from the warehouse, alone, hands visible. "It ends tonight, Antonio. One way or another." "Agreed," Marchetti's smile widened. "Where's your little nurse? I wanted to meet the girl worth starting a war over." "She's not part of this. Everything's part of this. You embarrass me, Alessandro.
Killed my men.
Disrupted my business. All for some woman you barely know." Marchetti spat. "Your father would be ashamed. My father would have ended you years ago. Your father knew his place." Marchetti's composure cracked. "You think you're untouchable? You're a child playing with your father's toys. Then come take them from me." The words were a trigger. Marchetti's men raised their weapons. But Alessandro was faster, a sharp whistle that brought his hidden men pouring from every shadow. The gunfight exploded across the warehouse district. Lena watched from the car, her heart in her throat. She saw Alessandro dive behind cover, returning fire with deadly precision. Saw his men moving like a coordinated unit, outmaneuvering Marchetti's larger force. Then she saw Marchetti slip away from the main fight, 2 bodyguards with him, heading for the waterfront. "He's running." Without thinking, Lena grabbed the medical kit and followed. She found them at the dock. Marchetti was trying to reach a boat, his escape route. But Alessandro had seen him too. He was following, limping, his wound from the penthouse had reopened.
"Alessandro!"
Lena shouted. He turned, saw her, his expression horrified. "I told you to stay." Marchetti's guard fired. The bullet hit Alessandro high in the chest, spinning him. He went down hard, blood blooming across his shirt.
"No."
Lena ran, sliding to her knees beside him. The wound was bad, too close to his heart. She pressed her hands against it, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was so much blood. Lena, Alessandro gasped.
Run.
Please. Shut up. I'm not losing you. Marchetti approached, gun in hand. How touching. Young love dying together. Lena looked up at him, this old man who'd turned her life into hell. You've already lost. Your men are dying back there. The other families won't back you. Kill us, and you're just a dead man walking. Maybe. Marchetti aimed at Alessandro's head. But at least I'll have this satisfaction. The gunshot was deafening. But Marchetti was the one who fell, a hole in his temple. Behind him, one of Alessandro's men, Marco's brother, lowered his rifle. Boss, the man called. Alive, Lena answered. But barely. Help me get him to the car. The hospital was a risk, but she had no choice.
Alessandro was dying.
She barked orders at the ER staff, her nurses' authority overriding their questions. They worked on him for 3 hours. When he finally opened his eyes, Lena was holding his hand. You stayed, he whispered. Of course I stayed, you idiot. Tears streamed down her face. You think I'd leave now? After everything? I almost died. Again. And I saved you. Again, she squeezed his hand. We're even now. Alessandro smiled weakly. The war's over. Marchetti's dead. You're safe. You can leave. New identity, new city. I can arrange. No. Lena. I'm not leaving. She leaned down, her forehead against his. I'm not here because I have to be Alessandro. I'm here because I chose to be. Because somewhere in all this chaos, I fell in love with a man who's probably going to drive me crazy. Definitely will, he agreed. And I don't care, she kissed him softly.
I'm staying.
With you. For however long you'll have me. Alessandro's eyes shone. Forever, then. Forever works. Outside the hospital window, snow began to fall, gentle and clean, covering the violence of the night in pure white. Just like the night they met, when a freezing nurse and a dangerous man found each other in the cold and changed everything.